All right. Hi, I'm Louise Leolin, and I'm one of the co-founders of DinoByte Labs, which is an indie game studio based in London. Basically, I graduated university not that long ago, I think 3, 4 years, and was in interactive media. So already at university, I was doing a lot of games projects. And when I first got out into the professional life, as they call it, I found that I was doing a lot of jobs that weren't games related. It was more web based. And the games industry is actually incredibly hard to break into. So my solution was to kind of just make a space for myself in it, I guess, and start up my own indie games company. Well, first it was questioning myself with my partner who started the company with me, thinking, is this insane or should we go for it? And we kind of figured, we're still young. So this might be the moment to try it, because I see a lot of people who've been working for longer than I have who get stuck in the career path that isn't necessarily their dream career path, but it's just and what's giving them a steady income, but they're not necessarily happy. And I'm very much a person who's afraid of getting stuck in a place like that. So I thought, you know what, I just have to dive in head first and give this a go. And if it doesn't work, find another job. But I think I would have regretted it if I didn't try, at least. Plus, we were already doing a lot of projects sort of casually as a hobby. Like, all of our friends basically are games designers. So we always do little games jams and things like that. And we thought, why don't we take this to the next level, incorporate, and actually start making some good money off of it. It's been 2 years, I think. We incorporated in August 2015. And to be honest with you, for the first year, we barely did anything related to games because we really didn't want to go down the route of having to get a big business loan and knowing that, the first 5 years of business, we weren't really making any money that was our own. So we tried doing everything self-funded, but that meant that we had to take on a lot of jobs that logo design or building websites and apps that aren't related to games. So that was pretty much what the whole first year was. I'd say 80% of it was doing client work and 20% was getting ready to develop our games. Definitely. We were working a lot, especially wanting to be self-funded. It means that, you don't really get a weekend. Like, I can't properly remember the last time I had a full 2-day weekend, because when you're doing your own work as well, it's different from, working in an office for someone else. You don't want to be working on the weekend, but when it's your own work and you're passionate about it, it kind of ends up being a thing where you're sitting on a Saturday trying to relax, play a video game, and you're like, oh, actually, I have a really good idea for how we could do such and such level. And then you end up going up and doing a bit of coding or making some assets or something. Yeah, we did a couple of games jams, mostly while we were at university. And then, as I said, the first year, we kind of didn't really have any time to make games because we were just trying to build funds to be able to make our games later on. But the past year, like going into the second year of DinoByte Labs, we've finally been able to do a lot more games related stuff, to the point that we actually rebranded a couple of months ago to be fully all about games. We originally were doing some UX consulting and things like that, which we still do, but only for games companies now. No more websites and stuff like that for the most part. So we thought, we need to get a new logo that's kind of a little mascot and a bit more fun. We had a very sort of standard blue industrial brand identity before that kind of was a good umbrella identity to cover all of the stuff that we did. Now that we're games, we want to finally get to be ourselves and show that through our brand. So I'd say one thing that I do every single day is social media work for at least 2 hours or so. And that's because nowadays, pretty much all marketing is on social media. So if you don't have a social media presence, if you're not working towards getting followers and having interesting content and posting little random anecdotes, then nobody's going to be interested when you finally do launch your product. Definitely a staple in every single day. Luckily, there are things like Buffer and some other apps that I can, do 3 hours of social media work on a Monday, and then it just does the rest of the work for me the rest of the week, which is very good. Other than that, it really depends a lot. Some days I'll be doing assets and more graphic design based work for our games. Sometimes we're actually doing games design and cutting out, pieces of paper to make prototypes and test out concepts for levels. I think one of my favorite things to do is research. Both, we have a little user research program called DinoBytes, which people can sign up to on our website, where we basically send out things like surveys, alpha tests, beta tests, and we get as much feedback as possible to try and really understand what our players want. And that's one of my favorite things, is like getting to talk to players and understanding, I thought that they would want this, but actually they want something else. And I kind of love being proven wrong sometimes. So we've worked on a couple of games for other companies. For example, the most recent one is a game that we did for a company called Legends of Learning, which is this educational institute based in Washington, D.C. And they basically have a bunch of designers come in and make games on different topics for kids to use throughout their curriculum at school. Them a bit more to be interested in the subject. We do a lot of stuff like that, and now we're finally getting to do our own project that's 100% our idea, our concept. We've put together a team to make it, and it's on Kickstarter. Really been so different, because when you have to work on a brief, or even if you're just doing a small part of a game, like we've been brought on to other teams to do just, the user experience or balancing mechanics and things like that. And you don't really feel like it's your vision or your game. So getting to make something that's our own is really game-changing, I guess, for us. So our upcoming game, which is called Meadly, is actually live on Kickstarter. And it's really amazing the type of things that Kickstarter can do, because like we say, we don't really want to have to go and get investors who are going to eventually want to take over our company or get lots of shares and things like that. We're very precious about what we've made because we've worked so hard for it. So we're not going to so easily give it away for money. With Kickstarter, people can, find your project, see your vision, see your passion, and then want to help you out and back you in return for getting, for example, a copy of the game. We also have some really cool rewards, like we have, our artists did this barrel card set for our game that we're giving out. I think it's limited to 50 backers. We also have signed prints, and the really cool thing about Kickstarter is that sometimes you get these rewards that are kind of non-tangible that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. So one of the things that we're doing for like our highest tier reward is you can actually design one of the shadow creatures in our game. And I don't think that, I can't think of many other places where you can get opportunities like this. I've seen things like you can become executive producer or help develop a character, come up with a scenario, and give sort of your backers, the people who believe in you, something incredibly unique like that. And like some of the other things we do is to show, we want to show that we actually really, really need your support and we care about it. So like we're sending out handwritten postcards, stuff that actually takes time and effort to do, but it shows the people who believe in us that, we genuinely are super grateful for their support. So I say that games development is as varied as most projects. I mean, you can be one person who makes a game over a span of a year or two, or you could be a team of, 50 who makes a game in a month. And there are companies like that who just make little games and just pump them out super quickly. Arguably not to the highest quality, but, quantity versus quality and that sort of thing. So for us, with this game, Meadly, we're a team of 3 to 5 people. The core team is 3 people, and then we sometimes outsource a couple of freelancers for things like sound or additional art and stuff like that. And right now we've developed the game up to the point that we have digital prototype done, all of the concepting is done, a lot of the art and assets are done, And that's all stuff that we've basically funded ourselves. And to actually get the product out there is why we've gone to Kickstarter, because it's one of those things where then this game probably isn't going to come out. But we've gotten it to a point that's good enough to show people. And then once we actually do get our funds, I'd say it'll take about 2, maybe 3 months to finish the game. And that has to do with the size of our team as well, since we are just 3 people. But we do work on this full time. So sometimes I see some Kickstarters where it just seems like it takes forever to finish. And I don't think that we're going to be like that, because since this is our full-time job, it's, you know, Monday to Saturday. That's just what we do for 12 hours. People do ask for varying amounts on Kickstarter. I've seen people get, you know, up to $3 million for a board game. And I've seen and, you know, worked on Kickstarters that have gotten around $2,500 to develop a game. Like, it just varies a lot. And again, I think a lot of it depends on the size of your team, because obviously the more people you have, the more people you have to pay. Yeah, it's a lot of effort. I'm not gonna lie. I think we've been putting together this campaign for about a month, a little over a month. And to be honest, it already starts even before that, because you sort of have to start building hype for it, again, with social media and marketing, and just hinting and giving little teases about like, oh, we're going to be making this game. Here's, you know, the game character. So we'll post some concept art of our main character. And then the build up to that, up till you actually do the Kickstarter, is its own set of work that could take months. And then the actual Kickstarter page, like you say, you need a video, which obviously takes a lot of good writing to make short and snippy. And also you want to show your emotion and your passion, because people don't want to just back, you know, a robotic person that's like, they want to see that you're excited about it. And then there's also like writing the page. I'm not a great writer, but luckily my co-founder, Christian, he's the one who's been writing our game. And he's also the one who does our website text and the Kickstarter text, and he's really good at it. Some of the stuff that's in the game is very like poetic and symbolic, and it's just way above my head in terms of what I can do. I'm very good at doing the graphic design and the conceptual design. He's definitely the more colorful writer than I am. We're developing it in Unity. And then he's using C# to code it. All of the assets for this are mostly 2D, aside from some cutscenes that we have, which our animator is using After Effects for. And then I myself use a combination of Photoshop and Illustrator, mostly Illustrator just because I'm better with that software. Google Drive is the most important thing for us, because a lot of the times we work in our office in London, but a lot of the time we work remotely. Like right now, I'm actually in my home office, and it's sort of, you know, time consuming to just to go in to talk to each other face to face, when you can do things like have Google Hangouts. I mean, this is 2017, so I think working remotely and working from home is definitely going to be the way forward. I feel like I'm much more efficient when I can just get in my own headspace and focus when I'm at home on my computer. So Google Drive, definitely important. We also use Facebook a lot, actually. We have our own group chat for the development. We also have our own Facebook group where we can post like small previews and updates and just get feedback from the team. Like our animator will be working on something. He'll post a little snippet and be like, oh, is this good? And then we'll say, you know, oh, I think you should maybe slow it down or change the colors. So it just keeps a constant dialogue happening. So I'm really fond of working on a much smaller team, to be honest, especially to, you know, allow creativity to flow better and to not have too many clashing opinions and stuff. So 50 employees and more is bigger than what I'm dreaming for my company. For myself personally, I wouldn't mind one day when I'm happy with the work that we've done at DinoByte Labs, if I do move on to a larger company, that's definitely one of my dreams, is working for somewhere like Bethesda or BioWare, even Microsoft. But for now, I say that in a year or two, my dream is just that we have a good number of games out that are really high quality. We don't really want to be making just arcade style, like Candy Crush. Not that there's anything wrong with Candy Crush, but sort of our own studio's philosophy is that we really love games with narrative. We like to give players a lot more agency, and we like to tell a story that actually makes you think. Because games are fun, but I think that they're actually also a really good medium for art and for, you know, starting a conversation about deeper topics, which is definitely what we're trying to do with Meadly, the game that's on Kickstarter. And we have a couple of other games in production. Some of them are more lighthearted and easy to play and fun, but the core of our games, you always want to have something really high quality. So that's definitely one of our goals. And then the other thing is that I kind of want to, I guess, do more stuff like this, where I can talk about working in the games industry and hopefully encourage other girls to work in the games industry, because right now there's definitely a need for more women. There's a big imbalance in terms of numbers. I think in the UK, maybe 30%, 35 is women in the games industry. And there are girls who are doing beautiful graphic design, girls who are learning to code, perfectly, you know, talented writers, everything. And if those girls could apply those skills within the games industry, I think that would be amazing, because it's definitely needed. And diversity is so important, because when people come from different backgrounds, they have different ideas to put on the table. But things are definitely changing in the industry, and, you know, companies are changing the way they think, not just about who they're hiring, but also about their players. They're acknowledging more that, you know, 50% of players are girls and they need to market towards them, or if nothing else, they need to, you know, try to not offend them constantly. But yeah, I do think that these things will change. It may be a bit slow to start, but once it kicks off, I'm very hopeful for the future. Most of our games projects haven't been open source so far anyways, because they're owned by our clients. In terms of our own games, it's not really something that I've thought about, but one of the things that I did 3 years ago was a really large-scale research about games marketing. And all of the information and data that I found in the whole report is going to be free, open source, public. Like, people can use it however they want. It's not going to be like a paid for report. Because I see a lot of things that have like, oh, do you want to know how to sell your games? Well, pay us, you know, £50 and we'll tell you. That's not what I want to do, because that was such a, basically it was part of my dissertation, and it was a real passion project, because I was looking at games marketing and gender, and how games could change their marketing just ever so slightly, and suddenly more women would want to play those games without having to like isolate male gamers, because there's this, you know, large group of gamers who feel like if things change, well, then everything is just going out the window. Suddenly games aren't being made for them anymore. And, you know, it's like a bit of a hysteria. And I wanted to talk to both female and male gamers and see, what do they actually feel? What do they want? How could things move towards something better between, you know, censorship and just being allowed to do whatever you want for the sake of doing it? And so all of that information and that whole report and dissertation and everything is, I guess, open source. We usually go to EGX Res, which is an indie games convention over at the Tobacco Dock in London. EGX in Birmingham is probably the biggest London games convention for the industry. Trying to think what else. The other stuff is a lot more stuff that I go to, which is related to, you know, women in business or women in games. The Women in Games conference is amazing, and I definitely recommend anyone who's even just interested in getting in the games industry, even if you're not in the games industry, go to the Women in Games conferences. They have so many workshops, not just about, you know, general tech stuff like how is VR going to change gaming and things like that, but for people who want to get into games, they have a bunch of workshops about, you know, how to tailor your CV to send it off to a games company. And they really are passionate about getting more women into gaming.
You'd have to